This is a Clouds Weather Alert.
Good late Thursday, early Friday. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center, giving you the latest on some big national weather severe potential as we look ahead in toward that timeline. So just kind of stay tuned for that. But first, I'll give you a quick local update here as we look across our North Florida and South Georgia zones. You can see here we're sitting right now in toward those 50s and 60s, starting to warm back up here. We had that core start toward that Thursday for some of us. Looking back here at my temperature readings here, my thermometer on that Thursday morning, we got down to 45 here east of Stark. And then as we look here just at some of the other data, we are at 54 right now, but a lot of the other areas are a little bit warmer, and those warming trends will continue here as we look into the timeline. I know toward Saturday we'll have to watch toward North Florida here, but mainly South Georgia for some strong to severe storms to develop. So kind of stay tuned for that. We'll keep you guys advised here as the situation does arise here, possibly in terms of some strong and severe weather. Maybe an isolated spin of tornado damage and wind gusts, something along those lines, but it shouldn't be anything like what we're going to see out toward the west here as we get in toward this Friday. We're going to have a busy day ahead as we're looking there toward that central time zone, really. We're just going to have to really pay attention because it's looking like some big time problems could develop here. I'll kind of say where some of the greatest risk is at here in just a moment. But first off, let's take a look at least at a couple traffic cameras here across the region. As Florida 511 perspectives, always interesting to go to here. We'll go ahead and pull up one of them, the I-95 at Hendricks view here. You'll kind of see what we're talking about in terms of just the overall sky conditions here. I know there could be some fog in some areas as we're looking ahead the next couple mornings, maybe more Saturday morning, we'll see. But just something to kind of bear in mind. Depending on where you're at in the region, it's kind of going to be hit and miss maybe, but just kind of some of those areas here that generally have that reduced visibility here a little bit more prominent are the ones you really need to pay attention to. But that's not a big story. As we look here also toward St. Johns County now, we'll take you there, Interstate 95, a little bit further toward the south, and you can get another look here, not too busy on the roads here, just around midnight or so. As again, we're turning that page from Thursday the 30th here into Friday the 31st, and again, the last day of the month. Unfortunately, going to have some big time problems here as we're looking out toward areas in the Midwest. So keep that in mind here. We're going to have to really pay attention to what could transpire here as we are getting toward those spots. But let's go ahead right now and say here some more weather information. Again, here it's looking pretty calm right now. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning toward parts of Nebraska here at the present time. I'll zoom into that area real quick. You'll kind of see what we're talking about as we get up there here in just a second, giving our computer a chance to kind of give us that viewpoint here. And you'll be able to see that we look up toward the community of Creighton there in Nebraska, just to the south and west right now. We have this severe thunderstorm warning here in play. So this is a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Antelope and Knox counties, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and half-dollar size hail possibilities as we get toward this area. So just something to watch in the Omaha and the Valley, Nebraska Weather Service office there. So just kind of wanted to bring that to your attention. Nothing too overwhelming right now, though. But again, that's going to change as we look ahead later on this Friday, the Friday afternoon, Friday evening time frame. You really need to pay attention here from the national standpoint. We're talking about the greatest chances for strong and long track tornadoes look to be around Memphis, Tennessee, Jonesboro, Arkansas, Poplar Bluff, Missouri, Davenport, Iowa, Iowa City, Iowa, and also Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in and around those spots are where we're really, really concerned. But other areas in between still got to pay attention as well. You see an enhanced risk of there, 3 out of 5 there for a pretty wide stretch going all the way from northwest Alabama through parts of southern Wisconsin even. So that really does tell the story. This is going to be a wide-ranging event. Winds, hail, definitely could be a big threat, but that tornado threat, we have those red areas here, 2 moderate risk as of the last check. This will change here in just a little bit as we get later in the word tonight. A new update will come out from SBC, and I'll be having that on some of the various platforms here, especially on Twitter, as we're looking ahead, as that does get released there around 2 a.m., maybe a little earlier, but again, somewhere in that timeline is what we're expecting right now, that time frame. So again, Memphis there, I'm just going to kind of point these out real quick just so you guys know what we're talking about. You can see this one red area here. We're going to be looking at an event where we have maybe some tornadic activity that gets really robust. We're talking about maybe higher end tornadoes even. In fact, let's check out that EF scale. And I mean, we can't forecast this far in advance or even live necessarily. We can look at debris signatures and kind of try to figure things out. But this is what we're going to be talking about, those tornadoes where you have considerable damage here. At least that EF2 type of range. We could have storms that unfortunately get in toward similar type of impacts to what we saw back last Friday toward parts of Mississippi. I know you hate hearing that. I hate having to mention that, but that's such a real possibility. We gotta go ahead and include that here in the forecast. We could be talking about devastating tornadoes. That is not out of the question here toward Memphis, Tennessee. Again, toward the Boot Heel of Missouri there, like Poplar Bluff there in that region as well. Jonesboro, Arkansas. You kind of get the idea there, and then up toward parts of Iowa there, even a little bit of Illinois in there as well as you're going across there from Davenport. So there's a lot to unpack here. Things get shift around a little bit, and it could still be strong tornadoes in and around some of those spots that were really pinpointed for the bullseyes. But strong tornado, again, considerable damage, EF2 plus. That's what we're showing you this here. You just really got to be on guard for what could happen later on today. It's still tomorrow in that central zone for a little less than an hour, but you kind of get the idea here. We just gotta be really just taking every moment here and looking at that radar and those radar scans that come on out. And are really examining what's developing. So the tornado safety tips so important. Make sure those areas are staying tuned. If you're in those areas, if there are relatives in those areas, make sure they're staying tuned for the latest. Charge the devices in case of power outages. In case we have some enhanced wind events, obviously tornado events can knock out power. People could be trapped under the debris and they need to have some charge on their phone to relay to the rescuers where they're at, possibly. Have multiple ways to receive alerts, and when a tornado warning is issued, that means to try to avoid taking such a mobile home. I wanted to add that because we keep seeing that over and over again. A lot of the injuries and fatalities really are coming out of mobile homes, and those are not really adequate shelters here for a tornado, especially a higher end tornado for sure. It's really something that is a really grave risk to you if you're in that in a F2 plus tornado. So just keep that in mind. Really, even under tornado watch, you want to go ahead and maybe get to that sturdier shelter there, a sturdier structure, a site-built structure, really. And it's also keep in mind when the tornado warning that you're making sure you're putting as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet. So again, or football helmet. We've talked about this before, but it's just so important to protect your head because you don't want that debris hitting you there, and that could cause a concussion or even worse in some of these circumstances. And to make sure you have those shoes on after the fact because you don't want to cut your feet up there from the debris that's around. So again, some pretty significant concern about, I mean, even though we had what we had last week there in Mississippi, it's about the highest concern we've had all year so far, and this could be an event that we remember for years to come if things end up going the wrong way on us. So keep that in mind. If things end up heading the wrong way, we won't know for sure until things, in terms of the storms, really develop. But once they do, and if you can kind of see maybe supercellular characteristics, that could really be big-time problems here ahead for some of the communities that we've talked about around those. Maybe not, maybe Poplar Bluff, maybe it's towards Sykes, then you never know. Just giving you guys an idea. Haytime, Missouri, just kind of throwing out names there that you guys may be familiar with toward the heartland, or again, it could be Iowa. Iowa is a secondary maximum, really. Both of them are primary or secondary maximums at this point in terms of the tornado threat. So we really got to just be paying attention here. Very unusual to have two areas where we're just so concerned here. The tornado parameters are going to be getting very high. And if we get the right and the wrong, I mean really the type of formation of these storms to come together, we're going to have problems on us. We may have hook echoes on the Doppler radar, and then that could really be problematic if they're tapping into the higher parameters there, and we maybe don't have the storm development as much earlier on in the day. Again, you just gotta really, if you need to right now, take a picture of this. Make sure you're memorizing this if you're in these risk areas. This is potentially a matter of life and death. We're going to go ahead and say it ahead of time. We've said it sometimes before ahead of time, but generally it's when we have those tornado emergencies. Hopefully, this event kind of fizzles out. And this Sunday we had a moderate risk there. It kind of came on us pretty late, and things didn't really develop for that tornado threat as much. We had a stronger tornado later on in the event, but this one, two different areas, you would think at least one of those would probably verify, and it's something pretty significant with the tornado outbreak. So that's why we're just kind of giving you guys that warning. Now, we're Saturday there on that April 1st. You can see toward Tallahassee, toward Albany there, Waycross, Brunswick. We have a marginal 1 out of 5 severe risk. Contrast that with a 4 out of 5 moderate risk that we're going to be seeing there on that Friday. On that Friday, 1 out of 5 here for parts of the local area. So we'll continue to monitor this here in the Weather Center, obviously, to give you guys the latest as it does progress. We'll be giving you guys the latest here. So just stay tuned to Clouds Weather. And of course, if we have any tornado warning storms within our 62 county area, we'll be on live to protect you, your friends, and your family here. And yeah, moving on through like we've been doing here since late 2019. You have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have YouTube, you have Twitch here to watch that live coverage. I'll just kind of reiterate that. And it's the same for national coverage we're going to have to likely do here later on that Friday. We're going to have to come on for special coverage almost undoubtedly here because of the overall scenario that's going to evolve. You have YouTube at Clouds Weather. Now, that's one of the places you can go. Subscribe to that. Hit that bell icon so you guys are really aware of the coverage when it gets going. So just keep that in mind there. You have cloudweather.com. It gives you all the different links there to the coverage that from the different platforms. One from each there at the top of the screen. You even have radar there you can go to get an interactive look at things when we're not on the air and kind of zoom around storms. And then not one of my platforms, but something that's really helpful. And hopefully it'll still be going on here as we look ahead in the word the timeline. But at NWS Tornado there on Twitter, that's something that tweets out. It generally is supposed to tweet out every tornado warning that gets issued and all the tornado watches that get issued. So that's something to follow along. But keep in mind, I also have multiple ways to get alerts in case one of those methods doesn't work. In case something doesn't work like that NWS tornado account or something in that realm because of some issues maybe that come up at the last moment. But with the radio, I know it's a good investment here for you guys. I'm not really talking about as much our area in this as I am talking about the national picture. So just keep that in mind. We're going to unfortunately have to be getting those no weather radios ready again for some grave concerns as we get out toward Little Rock, Arkansas. Areas there in southern Missouri on Tuesday, the 4th. Already 30% severe risk. This could include tornadoes and strong tornadoes again. So that's really problematic here as we're looking toward these areas. I mean, you have Cape Girardeau in here. You have areas there on Jonesboro again. In Arkansas. I mean, getting close to Texarkana there in the southwest part of that. That general area is getting covered. So just got to really be paying attention here as we look ahead and toward that timeline. There's a lot of concern that we're going to be having to keep track of here as we get into toward those coming days here in the weather department. Again, and we're talking about Friday there. We already had that strong tornado risk there. Those moderate risk zones. I mean, we could even have a violent tornado in there as you get even higher on the EF scales we were alluding to, like an EF4 or something like that. It's not out of the question. It would almost seem more likely than not that we'll have some type of tornado, at least one of those like that in one of these two events. I mean, really, two different areas on that Friday. So really, almost 3 different areas here. Things could evolve on us in a very bad way. So just really don't like those odds. So gotta really be careful here. Gotta be taking every situation here seriously as they do evolve from the national standpoint. Again, this right here is Tuesday, April 4th. This could change around some more than the rest for Friday will, you would think. So just keep that in mind. We could have that 30% move east, west, north, or south here. Obviously, the yellow area's got to stay tuned as well. We have Nashville, Bowling Green there. We have St. Louis. We have areas all the way up in North Iowa, near Chicago, even in Illinois. So there's a lot of stuff to pay attention to I know some folks maybe starting to think about opening day baseball that occurred here and still going on that Thursday into Friday in the major leagues. And unfortunately, I don't want to be distracted by that here. You want to be paying attention to these severe weather potentials that'll be evolving. We don't want to see loss of life. We want to see injuries mitigated the best we can here in these events. So keep that in mind. It's very important. As I continue to look here at some more information in the Weather Center, looking at some of my notes, it's very important to keep in mind here that these events here, the risk to life gets mitigated here as we're looking ahead in the timeline. So again, that's that risk there on that Tuesday, the 4th of April. So continue to watch that. We have that storm we're watching up toward the north there. It's no longer warned, it doesn't look like. But again, could have those stronger tornadoes there as we get later toward Friday, and long track tornadoes in those red areas. It's just so important to be staying weather aware there as things really develop potentially in the wrong way on us. And let's go ahead now and jump on over toward that rainfall forecast. As we see here now, some of those oranges over the next 7 days, where the two events kind of adding the totals up now versus this one that we were showing you earlier on with the 7-day period. We could see in the areas of Arkansas maybe 4+ inches of rain, a possibility. Some areas could get a half a foot. It's not out of the question. So keep that in mind. You have interactive radar, cloudweather.com/radar when we're not on the air, as we were alluding to earlier. But it's really important to look at all those warnings, flash flood warnings as well, that get issued. But tornado warnings, of course, are the most concerning generally. But flash flooding deaths can and have occurred here in a recent event back there last week, and we had some of those toward parts of Missouri. So you really just got to remember, turn around, don't ground as well. That's something important to keep in mind as we go ahead. And just to remind you here of our covered area, we'll be on as we need to be here for our local threats. But here's that North Florida and South Georgia forecast here over the next 7 days. 5% chance of that rain on that Friday, 50% on that Saturday. Maybe more be South Georgia issue. By the time the storms get toward North Florida, start getting, let's say, be fizzling out, we'll be getting later on toward those evening hours, and we start to lose that energy around. Things will become more stable versus the destabilization that we'll see around here. And then you see the temperatures warm, getting above average, really, as we're looking at things. In fact, I'll step on out of the way real quick so you guys can see the rest of this as we get over toward the 90s there, toward Wednesday, toward Thursday, way above average. Unfortunately, I know we're going to have the severe weather to the north, a really impactful severe weather more than likely toward parts of Missouri, parts of the heartland, being impacted maybe twice here in the coming days. You really got to stay tuned for the latest. Hopefully, we get all these to bust on us. That's, in the meteorology world, it's something really, when an event doesn't come together, you call it a bust. We hope we have these all to bust, but I hope that happens. But I kind of am doubting that's all going to come together just perfectly here. We really was that luck in terms of these events here. We with some luck in terms of just all busting, but because we don't want to see injuries, we don't want to see fatalities here. But it's looking likely that we're going to have at least some issues here arise on us with the higher end tornadoes toward the national picture. Again, the local picture, not the storyline. I don't want you guys to worry here locally, really. I mean, we could have a rogue, isolated, weaker tornado towards South Georgia Saturday, but that's really probably about the extent of that threat over the next 7 days. At this point, things can always change, but I mean, the logo's not red for our local area. It's red for the national storyline. So, and I'm saying that, just keep that in mind, but just wanted to reemphasize here how concerned we are from the national standpoint here about what could happen. But I know things like the Clay County, Florida Fair, weather there toward Green Cove Springs generally should look pretty good over the next 7 days to go out and enjoy there as a family, or just by yourself even. Enjoy that there in Green Cove as you're trying to kind of make the most of these summer-like conditions, really, that'll be around here. That's just getting going, just got going on that Thursday, I do believe. So, again, interesting to see that. And then also here, I know another thing to remember is that Hurricane Ian, the name was officially retired there this week. by the World Meteorological Organization. So we don't have to worry about hearing that name in a future storm in the Atlantic Basin. Not going to be used for one of those. We'll always remember what happened, like we did with storms like Katrina and Andrew here in the past. Ian, another one of those names we'll never forget from what happened there towards Southwest Florida in 2022. But again, just watching stuff up there. Actually, I have a severe thunderstorm warning in Iowa now. Somebody can move the map over. I know our system's a little sluggish here. I'll work on that here in a little bit. Make sure we're ready to go for that severe weather event later on today, the big national one. But you see northwest of Sioux City there. You have a little bit of hail developing. This is not too big of a concern right now. Severe thunderstorm warning for parts. It looks like a Plymouth County there in northwest Iowa, northeastern Dixon County, and northeastern Nebraska, and Union County. In southeastern South Dakota, with a storm moving northeast at 50 miles an hour, and the primary threat is $half-sized hail. So again, this is kind of very early stuff, and this is not something we're too concerned with as a meteorological community here, a meteorology enterprise. So again, we'll continue to watch things there, but let's get back to that local picture now. You can kind of see not too much going on around here, and that's good news. We're not dealing with what they're going to be seeing, our neighbors are going to be seeing there up toward parts of the Midwest, toward the heartland. I just want you to be prepared. Hopefully these events, when we talk like this here, sometimes things get really bad. Sometimes they bust here. I'm hoping for bust, but we could end up having these conditions really combust on us, to be quite honest. And that could be really problematic. So we just need to remember those tornado safety tips there. Interior room away from windows, putting as many walls between you and the outside as possible. In fact, I'll go to our other tornado safety tip graphic right now just to kind of reemphasize here our concern from that national standpoint here. I don't normally get quite this concerned as we're looking ahead to an event here that's more than 12 hours out. But this seeks to decide that sturdy building when a tornado warning is issued. Again, mobile homes are not really the place to be. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet. And now I know some of you might have storm anxiety. The good news is tornadoes, maybe not with the wind, but the tornadoes, they're not going to hit a whole bunch here in terms of the population. I mean, maybe just a couple percent, 1%. They don't hit that many people, but the people that get hit could be severely impacted. So the chances of you getting hit in an individual event are not that high. So don't panic. Just kind of prepare here for what could happen toward areas around Memphis, areas around Jonesboro, Arkansas, Poplar Bluff, Missouri, there, Sykeston, Missouri, even to the north. We'll be watching our Cape Girardeau, no doubt, in case things kind of ramp up on us. St. Louis as well, but it seems like the tornado threat might be a little lower there, but still damaging weather could impact some of those areas in southeast Missouri further up. And then we're watching Illinois, we're watching Iowa there. Just a lot of those communities really got to pay attention here as we look ahead in toward the timeline. This is just so serious here. You don't see this that often. We're watching Davenport, we're watching Iowa there, the University of Iowa there in Iowa City. We're going to be paying attention here toward Cedar Rapids. So just please take this seriously. That's kind of the key takeaway here from this. I know you just really got to be paying attention here in an event like this, because things can happen quick. These storms look to be moving pretty fast here in our model guidance, so things could change in a hurry for your local area. So make sure, whether you're watching me or your local affiliates, you just gotta have a way to kind of follow along here. Gotta have ways to get alerts, whether radio. That's one of the great methods. It's your phone there for those tornado warnings. If the emergency alerts are set up, then they'll be coming on through there. If you have that type of threat for your area based on the location setting there. So again, and just kind of keep that in mind, the different things that we're talking about. We could have PDS tornado watches here in play. We haven't had those too often here. And that means it's a particularly dangerous situation. But we have had tornado emergencies, tornado warnings of the particularly dangerous situation in nature. And that could happen on that Friday. Maybe it won't. Maybe we'll get lucky. Hopefully we'll get lucky for Friday, Tuesday, and then maybe some of that Tuesday stuff that could linger into Wednesday. Maybe we'll get lucky on that as well. But I just want you to be prepared here as we're looking ahead in toward the timeline, toward the heartland. North-south of there, even, as we've already alluded to. We just want to make sure you guys are just looking at everything and examining it so closely with a really, really close inspection. I just want everybody to stay safe out there. That's what it's all about here at Clouds Weather. So let's go ahead. I'll come back on camera on one of go over something real quick here. Again, your red areas here where we're watching the closest here, but those are orange areas as well. We're going to have to be paying attention. Even the yellow areas, things can shift around here, and a new outlook will be out momentarily. So just kind of keep that in mind here as we're watching things from the national perspective and toward that central time zone. You see areas there from just south of La Crosse, Wisconsin, to around Greenville, Mississippi, under an enhanced risk of severe weather. So that is something where we really got to watch that corridor all the way through. You see areas there just west of Jefferson City, near Des Moines, Iowa there, all the way east to about Nashville and Evansville. Just got to pay attention. Chicago, Illinois, of course, as well, the metro area there. We're going to be watching, we're going to be tracking. But for now, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great night. I'll be back here as needed on that Friday for that national severe threat on Tuesday as well, because these look like higher end events with that logo right here as we're really paying attention to protect you, your friends, and your family.